This is the story of the woman who was so hungry for her husband's wealth, she went to the extent of poisoning him, then suffocating him, leading to his death, trying to make it look like a suicide. On the 2nd of August 2017, Matthew Dunbar was found by police, laid dead in his bed, drugged, and with a bag over his head, which had a pipe that was pumping helium into him. Matthew Dunbar met Natasha Darcy, the woman who was so hungry for all of her husband's wealth that she killed him. I mean, just look at this woman. Just looking into her eyes makes me feel automatically uneasy. She has that evil death stare. So, why did this even happen in the first place anyway? Well, all of this happened over her being greedy and wanting all of her husband's wealth. Matthew gained his wealth from a successful sheep farm that he had. Oh yeah, he also had his own property worth $3.5 million, so I'm guessing she wanted that too. Natasha and Matthew met online and had been married for approximately 3 years before Natasha's greed would consume her and make her do the following things she did. Matthew should have started to notice things was off with Natasha when she was constantly pressing him about writing his will. Only 1 year after they met, she messaged Matthew and said, "Can you promise to do one thing for me this week? Call the solicitor for an appointment to sort your will." This should have been a huge red flag for Matthew. I mean, if I got a message from my wife that said this, I would definitely think something is up, and I would not put it past her that she was in fact going to kill me. Sadly though, Matthew did in fact change his will around May 2015. So far for Natasha, it did look like her plan was working and everything was running smoothly. Matthew should have also done some Google searches on Natasha, as she has actually done something like this in the past and has actually been to prison for it. Her ex-husband, Colin Crossman, has been a victim of her just like Matthew was, but Colin did in fact survive. She had drugged him and even hit him over the head with a hammer, all to claim his life insurance. Luckily, Colin survived, and crazy enough, he was the first paramedic at the scene of when she drugged Matthew. This story just gets crazier and crazier by the minute. The thing that really got me about this case is that she searched some crazy things up online, meaning that she must have been planning this for some time. She wanted to make it look like a natural death, hence why she poisoned him, but her plan just wasn't good enough, as she is now behind bars. Natasha tried to tell the police that he committed suicide, but toxicology reports proved otherwise. There was a lot of evidence that led to Natasha killing her husband, such as her search history months prior to killing Matthew. Roughly around February 2017, she searched things like causes of death including poisonous spiders, toxic plants that look like food, until the searches then progressed into how to commit murder and can police access deleted web history. Well, this last one was ironic, and I'm guessing her question has now been answered. How stupid can you actually be to type things like this in online? This woman is all kinds of crazy and stupid. She's that stupid, she needs to be given an extra 10 years on her sentence for her crimes of large amounts of stupidity that hold a maximum of 10 years. So, how did Natasha prepare for her plan to kill her husband? Well, it started with the idea of doing it, of course, then her Google searches, then actually finding the drugs online to order to execute her master plan. These are RAM sedatives. This is a tranquilizer, basically to knock animals out. I'm guessing Natasha either ordered these to put Matthew down or to just try and kill him with this. Anyway, Natasha actually tried 3 different vets before finally obtaining 100 milliliters of the RAM sedatives on the 28th of June 2017. She used a false name and address to purchase enough RAM to tranquilize 25 to 40 horses, and even googled acepromazine human overdose and what would acepromazine do to a human. This is crazy, I know, but it just gets worse, guys. 2 days before Matthew's death, Natasha researched helium online on the family's computer. On the 31st of July 2017, Natasha rang a super gas store and ordered a 3.5 cubic meter tank of helium, telling an employee Mr. Dunbar would pick it up the following day. But the employee remembered a clear recollection of the request being specifically for high purity helium and it being a female caller. Natasha later suggested to the police that Matthew may have ordered it, telling them Matthew had a very feminine sounding voice. Clearly, this was just a failed attempt of covering her tracks. The Supergas employee told the court, "No, I am 100% certain I spoke to a woman." The fact that Matthew just wanted a wife who he could share his life with, and all he got was a cold, calculating murderer who wanted to take all his money and land off him. Luckily now though, Natasha is in fact behind bars, but her stupidity doesn't end here. Natasha actually sent 2 letters from when she was in custody awaiting trial to one of her friends. This just gets better and better. The first letter that Natasha sent to her friend offered her $20,000 in cash to tell specific lies about her husband that would assist Natasha at her murder trial. She then sent a second letter as she hadn't heard back from her friend. This letter was saying that she was sorry if $20,000 was not enough and that she would pay more, and even said to the friend, "I have as much as you need." Thankfully though, her friend cut all contact with her and didn't take her up on her offer, and she gave these letters to the police, building up more evidence towards her. Things just aren't going well for her now. As Natasha was in custody for her crimes, she decided to take a different turn in her story. She went from him to committing suicide all alone, to her actually helping him, and she actually tried pleading guilty to aiding and abetting his suicide. She did this because she knew that the police knew she was guilty due to her search history and things like that. Obviously, she didn't want to plead guilty to the murder, but she knew she had to plead guilty to something, so she chose something that wasn't as bad as murder. Unfortunately for her though, this plea didn't stand in court, as she was not charged with this because they didn't believe it was a suicide in the first place to begin with. The defence did have a witness in this case, and it was actually a very important one. It was a suicide expert, Professor Matthew Large. He diagnosed Mr. Dunbar with depression. He also said there was no issue that Mr. Dunbar had experienced depression, but a psychiatrist who saw him while he was alive insisted under oath that it was not a significant illness. The doctor who encountered Mr. Dunbar in a mental health ward after he threatened suicide described the farmer as one of the least unwell people I have ever met in public. He said the Crown case was that Mr. Dacey had exploited Mr. Dunbar's depression to kill him in a way she did, a staged suicide. From all the overwhelming pieces of evidence against Natasha Dacey, it is quite obvious that she would be found guilty of murder, which she did. Natasha has been found guilty of murder, and she has been remanded and will return to court on October the 1st, 2021. This is a truly shocking case. It's sad that this man's successful life was cut short by this evil, money-hungry, pathetic excuse of a woman, and hopefully she gets the punishment that she deserves and spends the rest of her life in prison. I just feel it's sad that people will go through all these extents just to get a bit of money. It's crazy to me that she went through all of this to claim all of his hard-earned money. It just shows what type of person Natasha actually was. A very greedy, disturbed human. One that doesn't care for anyone but herself, and will do just about anything to fulfill her selfish, greedy needs. She really thought her sophisticated plot would actually work, and that she wouldn't get caught. But little does she know that her biggest downfall was her own stupidity. What might surprise you guys that I haven't mentioned yet is that Natasha actually had 3 kids, but now them kids will be growing up without a mother. It's sad, but at the same time, you have to be happy for the kids, because I wouldn't put it past Natasha that she would have tried this with one of her kids if any of them ever gained a large amount of success. At least now, she won't be able to do this to anyone else. I feel the world we live in now, there will be a lot more of this type of stuff happening.
Good afternoon. A New South Wales mother of 3 has been found guilty of murdering her partner, drugging and gassing him so she could inherit his multi-million-dollar fortune. Leonie Ryan is following this story. Leonie, the jury returned its verdict earlier today.
Good afternoon. Well, after a 10-week trial and a jury deliberating for several days, it did find Natasha Dacey killed Matthew Dunbar in a plot which was planned for several months. Her motive was financial because she was the sole beneficiary of his estate. He had no children or blood relatives, and his estate included his $3.5 million property at Walker in the New South Wales Northern Tablelands. Dacey staged his suicide on the night Matthew was found in his bed. He was found with a plastic bag over his head, and coming out of that bag was a tube which was connected to a helium tank. The jury did find the 46-year-old had fed him a cocktail of drugs, sedatives, which she blended in a NutriBullet. The court heard there was extensive planning the months before he died. A number of internet searches were made, including how to commit murder, toxic plants that look like food, injecting air into veins, and can police see past search history. The trial also heard she tried to bribe a Crown witness by offering them $20,000 to lie while giving evidence. And if she was found not guilty of murder, that money would be paid in full. Matthew's friends have welcomed the development, saying he was loved and is dearly missed.
There's been some sleepless nights because she's gotten away with just so much over the years.
Now, Natasha Darcy will return to court in October and faces a maximum life in jail.